Hey guys, Fred Kynes, all kinds of classics. 90th episode. And what? Oh, well over a year, probably closing in on 2 years worth of time. And trying as best I can to consolidate these for all of you guys, all of you folks. I want to thank you again for the subscriptions. I want you to consider something. If you're watching this and you're interested in this series, subscribe to it. I was just talking to an individual the other day who watches the channel and said, "What happens when you subscribe? Do you get put on some list somewhere, or is there some cryptic thing that occurs?" And there isn't. Subscribe just simply brings it to a list, watch list, if you want to call it that, on your YouTube channel, and on the upper left side, where you search, you can go down to your subscriptions and those kinds of things that you like to watch, you place there. I do it. I've got a number of subscriptions because I learned that way as well, as along with the rest of us. But we're on 90 episodes now, and in this one, I'm making some adjustments to the dashboard to fit the trim pieces and to fit the window channel. And this old 1930, it had a windshield that swung out, and I don't want that. I want a fixed windshield. So look through this, like, subscribe, ring the little bell. What it does is it creates an activity for YouTube that enables what everybody seems to call an algorithm, but it creates an environment where I pop up faster on YouTube so that others can view the same thing. I'm not monetized. I'm not sponsored currently. None of that. I did this for my own personal interests and to share this legacy on this build with my family. It's gone, and my close friends, but it's gone significantly farther than that in several episodes. So hit those buttons, enjoy the video, and we'll keep plugging away. There's going to be a lot more videos. It's amazing that in 2 years, when a person thinks that, hey, it's sort of taking a long time to build, but if you go through this series and take a look at some of the things that I've done as a working individual, you will see that I have a sense of urgency, and I'm not shy to try something new. But at the same time, it takes a while. Enjoy, guys. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, I got the gasket in here now. That's the edge of the defrost. There's the other edge of the defrost. And that's a gap. I'm going to back up a little bit. That's a gap. I still got to straighten that out. But then I got thinking, how am I going to close that? And what am I going to do to close this? So I thought, instead of closing this on the trim piece, it's going to be simpler to close it and more aesthetically pleasing to close it on the dash. So what I did, I sheared a couple pieces of material, 1/2 inch in width, scribed it and bent it over so I got a 1/4 by 1/4 angle. Okay, that starts straight. I'll lay it up against here. But I need to follow the contour of the dash. You can see the edges where I shrank. This is the passenger side. And as it turns out, the symmetry between the two, the passenger and the driver, wind up being identical. So I shrunk them until I got them identical. Technically they're identical in a mirror image, though. So, you know. But anyway, so now this piece here is going to float in. Got a piece of 10 gauge, close enough to 1/8 of an inch, which will be the gap. And then I will TIG weld that on to the dash. Okay, that'll establish my gap.
and then I'll fill in that area with that same gap down to this. Well, that's my 1/8 in my material, but you can see where the tape is buckled right there. That's down to that body line right there. So that's the current game plan. So I've got 2 of these made, one for the passenger. I'll TIG weld it on. It'll close out to the molding, or just shy of it. And actually, being just shy of it is preferred, because then I will obviously be able to put a foam or something, anti-squeak type medium in there, but it'll have to be extremely thin. But clearly this is not the same profile as in the middle, so now that next piece I'll go for the middle, and that way the vent will close out just below the rubber molding. You can see it's just right there up against the rubber channel, and that'll remain open. Okay, and I will close this section out to finish the dash. That way pencils and credit cards and stuff like that will fall down the defroster as they do in a normal situation. Alright, that's what I'm working on. Well, with the dash in, don't judge. Just know that I'm doing the best I can. But anyway, the beauty is, of course, with TIG, you get a nice flat weld. So I just tacked, as I was working over here, I had to burn through, well, not a burn through, a void. Yeah, kind of a burn through there, and I was off. And because I'm working in through the windshield, this is actually flush. This needs maybe just a touch of a tap, and this needs some tapping. I have to cut that. So I tacked it into position. You can see it's overhanging on each side. Okay, that was with that 10 gauge or 135 thou spacer. So now I'll come in and I'll just tack all this up. These are, of course, the defroster, the defroster duct. I don't like the fact that I went straight in with this, but I had to because of clearance issues. So I have tested this. You can see that pocket is relatively low. It is cut out here. But this blows less than this. And so I may actually at this point too take a little bit of a divider. I don't know. It's really not that big of a deal. As long as air's coming out of both of them, it'll defrost the windshield. But that's how that kind of plays out. And you can see what I was up against, various obstacles to overcome. I shortened the dash. This is underneath the header. I had to clearance everything to get in there. But it is in. It works really well. I've tried it with the blower, and again, the driver's side just blows a little softer than the passenger side, but that's all right. Anyway, got that all tacked in. That's the project for this morning. It's time for me to go to work. I typically get up at about 4:30 and work on the car every day, and it's time for me to go and clean up. Well, woke up late today. Don't know why. Must have been tired. So, got this welded on. But I'll get it. Look at that heat signature. I mean, I've piled in. Just couldn't get it right up underneath the windshield. And that side's tacked. But then I pulled across this side. And I did hammer and dolly, but because I'm under a lip, and well, it's hard to see now, but this is hemmed. It's rolled over and then bent down and hemmed up. But in this, I'm also adding on my extension here. Just got started. I just got it welded in. Of course, it moves all over the place. I just got it tacked, but I got to roll. So I'll just dolly this and get her straightened out and following the fender. Then that little 1/4 inch there, I'll come around and probably open it up to about this 3/8 here, so it looks back tray. So I'm going to leave this in here because of the structure it adds all the way down this front of this dash. But I'll add another bend here, and I'm just going to weld it on and finish it off to a radius just like this or this, So it all looks back tray. But this is as good as I think as good as I'm going to get it. I can't get a swing. I can do stacked hammers and everything else to get up in there, but I played with it quite a bit, and I don't want to sand it through, so that's going to wind up just being a little bit of filler. It feels, beautiful this way. I got too much heat into this area. Of course, I could just make a quick pass. Do you understand the conflict I have with myself? Anyway, there's where I'm going. That's where I'm headed. All right, it's been a journey. I did start to come in and fill some of that and sand it. That's probably as much thinking as I can get into that. But would you look at that? So then I tied that in, wrapped it around, come up, wrapped it around the corner and come in. I have an undercut right here, and I have worked on it a little bit. I might continue to work on it, but I have to calm down. I don't know if it happens to you guys, but you get into this and you start thinking, okay, I think I can, and you start coming in and trying to address some of this. And I have not a ton of experience with TIG welding, and I probably said that 100 times, but I'm getting better. But can I do this? Can I do this? And I get in there with my tip all sharpened up and my confidence as high as I can get it, and I touch it and I introduce my rod, my feeder rod, and the next thing you know, I stuck the feeder rod to the tip, and the tip, now I push the tip into the metal and it's stuck, and then you wiggle it loose and you try to keep going, and pretty soon you got about a ball that big on the end of your torch. It's metal and whatever is living around the real estate when you're doing it, and then you push on and then realize, I guess we'll go grind the tip and come back, and then I make some progress, and so on and so forth. So I have really rambled there, but the fact of the matter is you roll on. So I need to take a break from that and all of this. And at the end of the story, it's still going to get surfacer, and I'm going to block it out. Obviously I'm going to block the whole thing out. So, but I got it. I've test fit it. It basically comes up, radiuses around, comes around, and then ties into the corner. I'll get you that shot, but at this moment, I'm going to start fixing this, which actually isn't going to be that hard. I'll get that run across and sanded and start on this. I'm confident that this side's going to go better than that, because you know how it goes, right? You learn as you go. But I'm happy with it. I'm not super duper proud of it, but I'm happy with it. I'm happy with the fact that I have the contour and it's smooth and all that. But I can do better. Moving right along. Well, and then I got number 2 on. Hofta Maya. And some low areas, but in this case, easily primer surfacer would take that out. But I mean, you can tell by the course of these conversations that I'm overly concerned about just getting it straight, and it's more pride than it is anything else, because those of you that have done this type of work before know that it always takes a little, right? It always takes a little. There's no car that isn't. You gotta It's not a through and through, but it's a low spot. This area I had to concentrate on quite a bit because, you know, burn through and stuff. But I've rounded the dash in here. I had to get in and dolly this down and bring this up. But it settled out. I got my corners radius now, 1, 2, 3, and now I got to work on 4. So it's taken time, but it's really feeling just great. It looks just great. So we'll just keep on plugging away. We're about there, guys. All right, we start here. Corner done. Done. Not quite done, but I got to get this in now. And I see this was, on the factory, was rolled a little bit. So we got to kind of play and then build that into it. So, moving right along. I finished. You can take a look at the, comes in, about 1/8 of an inch gap, falls around. This gap is a little wider from the factory, but I'm not too worried about it. I still don't know what I'm going to do for this dash, whether I'm going to pad it or not. So, but 1/8 of an inch will certainly allow for it. Runs along the top. I took this piece of trim and ran it to make sure that my gaps were the same. Or my gaps. My, this follows. And had to do a little tapping. See the hammer there. And I got it in. It was no problem, just had to straighten it out, you know, from welding. That's what welding does. And then I got this side done. Got a little bit of undercut, but again, 1/8 inch gap. Follows around. So I think that looks pretty. It's kind of one of those things that nobody will ever notice. You know, only the keen eye or, you know, the guy that's really auditing will notice. But it's one of those things that you don't notice that you say, wow. Because if there was a, whatever that was, 3/8 inch or whatever the heck it was, yeah, 3/8 inch gap, you'd be noticing that. You know, you'd look into the corner and see it piled up with crap or whatever, you know. So now that ties that out. And I'm good and happy. These are both 7-inch openings. I actually measured and trimmed them so that, you know, even from the outside when the windshield is in, you won't be able to see much of it, but you'll see those 2 slots properly centered and, you know, justified. They are radiused to start, you know, and again, I'll have to get in and fill it. This one I'll probably have to do a little more radiusing on, just so that this whole rolled edge ties. And we're making our way. So that piece of the project is done for now. This I'm still looking at an LCD for up there, and so, you know, I want to integrate it. I wanted it to be totally in there, and that would then wind up being the radio and the rear camera and probably a front camera, because it seems like every one of them comes with a front camera, and my Bluetooth, basically, you know, for my cell phone. So Google Maps, that kind of thing. So when you're sitting in there, you could have that monitor or rearview mirror or whatever. Down below will be the gauges, digital gauge set. So that's all the plan. And digital meaning a screen with gauges that are placed, you know, in the location of the original, or like the original. So we are starting to get excited again. But this was a huge, this task for welding those little 1/4 by 1/4 pieces of angle on there, that was kicking my butt. But I did stick with it. I finished it, and I'm happy with it. Thanks for watching. Who knows what comes up next?